On lap 48 of the 2021 Hungarian Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton could still win. He was running in fourth, only 8.4 seconds behind the race leader Esteban Ocon. He pitted for new medium compound tyres and came out 16.2 seconds behind Fernando Alonso, Ocon's teammate, with 22 laps remaining. Over the next 6 laps, Hamilton caught Alonso at a rate of 2.1 seconds a lap. As Ocon was lapping slower than Alonso, if Hamilton could get past Alonso quickly, Hamilton could catch Ocon before the end of the race and secure 25 points in a race where his only championship rival would score 2. Hamilton's win condition was clear: lap faster than Ocon, overtake Alonso, overtake Ocon. So what went wrong? I've plotted all competitive lap times set during the Grand Prix. I'm not including pit stop in or out laps, and I've also omitted lap times more than 110% of the fastest lap, set by Pierre Gasly on lap 70. There are some interesting points to note here. Vettel and Ocon both have very similar distributions. This somewhat explains why Vettel had such trouble getting past Ocon to win the race. His pace was effectively the same, on a track where overtaking requires a large pace advantage. We can also look at how consistently drivers were lapping around the Hungaroring. Look at Latifi, for example, in the Williams, a remarkably consistent performance, whilst Verstappen's just wasn't. But that's the difference when you're missing an entire bargeboard assembly and having to spend the entire Grand Prix following midfielders at best. Even with that extensive damage to his car, Verstappen managed to get a lap below 81 seconds, something that only Hamilton, Alonso and Pierre Gasly were also able to do. Let's take away all the lap times set before lap 48, this phase of the race being important later on. Here we can see the raw pace advantage Hamilton had over every other driver in the closing phase of the race. We also can't fail to notice how the pace of Ricciardo was so much slower than even the Williams team. But perhaps his lap times reveal a deeper truth: Ricciardo's secret message to McLaren. Something that if I was a more unscrupulous person I might set as the thumbnail for this video. But I'm not, so I won't. Let's take a deeper look at the Hamilton-Alonso battle. Here I've plotted the lap times of both drivers over the whole race. On this scale it hardly looks like much has changed, but Formula 1 is a war over minor differences. So let's zoom in. By looking at the lap times over the whole race, we can see the effect of new tyres and burning fuel. By the time Hamilton catches Alonso on lap 55, his lap times have decreased by almost 5 seconds, about 4%. Alonso's lap times too have improved, but notice how once he had Hamilton behind him, his lap times increase again. Was this Alonso seeing how much he could hold Hamilton up? Or was this the effect of Alonso getting in the dirty air of Sainz? We can see how quickly Hamilton catches Alonso after the lap 48 pit stop when we plot the gap from Hamilton to 3 drivers ahead. Vettel, remember, is just behind Ocon. You can see that throughout the period where Hamilton is behind Alonso trying to get past, Ocon doesn't really manage to pull any further away despite Alonso lapping below his ultimate pace. If we change the vertical scale so that we can see negative gaps, that is to say when Hamilton has overtaken and is ahead, we can investigate whether Hamilton could have overtaken Ocon had he caught him. After all, sitting in the dirty air of Alonso for 10 or so laps couldn't have helped his tyres. If we look at the rate Hamilton caught Alonso, it works out at about 3 seconds per lap. And after sitting in Alonso's dirty air pushing his tyres hard to get past, we can see that in the last 3 laps of the race he manages to also catch Ocon at about 3 seconds per lap. So why was Hamilton able to make up so much time on Ocon at the end of the race? Well, Ocon was on hard tyres, like Alonso, but he'd put on his 32 laps earlier. Ocon was also defending hard from a close Vettel, so it looks like in this final phase of the race the tyres were degrading at about the same rate. So in conclusion, on yet another occasion, the Grand Prix could have ended very differently had it lasted just 1 or 2 more laps. Of course, Mercedes might have been able to create an effectively longer final stint by pitting Hamilton a couple of laps earlier. But who would have predicted Alonso would take 10 laps or more to get past?